Good evening. This is the Borough of Crafton Council meeting for Thursday, January 14th, 2021. We're going to call the meeting to order, and I'm going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Ayla,
Here.
Councilman Amendola,
Here.
Councilman Crown is absent. Councilman Lavasser,
Here.
Councilwoman Perry,
Here.
and Councilman Saba.
Here. And I'm here too.
And Councilman Kraus. What the heck happened? I had this little cheat sheet and I apologize. Let me redo that. Yes.
That's okay. Better late than never.
I apologize about that. Okay, good. I'm sorry about that.
All right. Moving forward to the consent agenda, the manager has stated that the minutes and the bills list are on the share drive if everybody had an opportunity to look at that. I have a motion to move to approve the January 14th, 2021 consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye. All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose. Approval of the consent agenda, thank you. Moving forward to the citizen comments. Please note that all comments will be heard at the beginning of the meeting due to the online meeting format. At this time, citizens may address the Borough Council. Speakers will be permitted to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes. Please state your name and physical address for the record.
For all the participants in attendance, there's a little raise hand function. If you could please use that function to indicate that you would like to speak, I will call on you, in which case you will just state your name and address for the record.
Any takers?
None at this time.
All right. I'm going to move forward then to the president's report. As you all know, that the COVID-19 vaccine is in distribution. There is a state rollout program that was put out by the governor's office. Right now, we're in phase 1A, and as we get to phase 1B and 1C, we will keep everybody posted. We're actually going to also post this information on our website. We're going to be working with our Council of Governments to ensure that there's a proper distribution to our first responders, and we will keep everybody in the loop as to what those schedules are, and if we get any communications from the county on anything with regards to vaccinating the general population, as that information is published by the governor in the county. In addition, I just want to thank everybody for moving with us to Thursday evenings. I think it worked out very well for the administration, and we will continue on through this year on Thursday evenings, on the second and fourth Thursday evenings. Planning commissions are going to still be meeting on the Tuesday, the fourth Tuesday of the month. So again, just want to thank everybody for being here this evening. And please, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email the interim manager or any member of council with your questions. All right, moving forward to the mayor's report.
I have nothing at this time, but I may have comments during some of the other agenda items.
All right, thank you. Mr. Minsterman, could you give everybody an update as to the process on the signals? Because I know we've had a lot of questions about the new signals that we've installed.
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. I'm having some problems with my laptop, so I jumped on my phone here. But in any event, the contractor obviously completed the installation of the signal equipment. There's a few exceptions due to them needing Duquesne Light to disconnect the existing power supply so that they can remove the existing poles and finish the remaining groundwork. There's still some sidewalks that need to be repaired, but before that can happen, the power has to be removed from the existing poles. So that is scheduled to take place over the next few weeks. This is controlled by Duquesne Light. So we're on the schedule and we're waiting to have that work completed. On the 12th, Gateway, PennDOT, and the contractor had a site inspection. A punch list was prepared, and this should be finalized by Friday, tomorrow. These will be submitted to the borough, the contractor, and PennDOT as far as what the items are that need to be conducted. So everything needs to be completed within about a 30-day test period of the lights. There also are some pavement markings that need to be done that'll have to wait until spring so that they could be applied. So those will be excluded from the 30-day test, but everything else is currently under testing so that it can be completed and turned over to the municipality. And as soon as Duquesne Light comes out to make the power disconnects, and that couldn't be scheduled until PennDOT came to do their final inspection and said, yes, everything looks good other than a few punch list items. So, I think we're within a couple weeks away of taking the old poles down. And in addition, the new poles, one of the additional items that is being looked at are covers for the bolts that are securing the pole to the concrete, and that's being looked at to purchase a sort of a skirt that is fitted with those poles, and that we're looking that can be installed by your in-house public works staff.
Thank you. Mr. Sabo.
I just had a quick question. I know in regards to the polls, some folks have brought up, just wondering why the button for the crosswalk, why it's so far out. I know some folks were in the public had been raising that question. So if you can just clarify why it was designed that way.
Yeah, so I'm not following your question.
So I guess on some of the polls, some folks have been bringing up that the button that you press for the walk sign to come on is significantly further out from the pole.
Huh. Yeah, I'll have to look into it. I don't know. It might be as a result.
Question folks brought up, so I figured might as well answer.
You mean the arm extending from the pole for the cross?
Yeah.
That's the ADA
Okay.
accessibility, so that they can get it. Yeah, it's an ADA requirement now.
Great. Yeah, I know folks have noticed the smallest things on these, so want to make sure that their questions are answered.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
No problem.
All right. Engineer Instrument, do we have any other updates on any of the other projects that we have in the pipeline?
Everything is pretty much status quo, not too much. A lot of times we're waiting for others to give responses, but in this case, we're just in the design process for the upcoming projects. Also working with the manager on the list of streets. I believe there's a preliminary list that has been established, and so we're working with the manager to establish, accurate construction cost estimates, measurements, and looking at the condition of the streets and what the work would be. And then I believe he's going to bring that back to council to make the final judgments on what streets are to be put into the program for this year.
All right, and our next engineering meeting, committee meetings next Tuesday?
The next Tuesday coming up, next week, yes.
Okay. All right, thank you. Moving forth to the solicitor's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Nothing really. Also wanted to thank council for moving meetings to Thursday. I know it helped accommodate me, so much appreciated with that. And then secondly, wanted just to announce that there'll be an executive session following the meeting to discuss real estate and litigation matters. It's the end of my report.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, moving forward to the manager's report.
I apologize. The computer shut off and reset itself, so I apologize. Mr. President, did you reference the bond rating call?
No, I have not.
Oh, okay. So that was, we had our bond rating call yesterday. We will get our rating next Wednesday, and then that will allow us to proceed with actually going out and selling the bonds. So that project is still on track for money deposited into the accounts in mid-February.
Thank you.
And the rest of my report is basically covered in the items that we'll be discussing here.
Yep. I just wanted to thank Councilwoman Perry for availing herself to help the interim manager and I address the questions that were put forth by Standard & Poor's. So I think it was a good showing there, and we look forward to a good rating. And in addition to that, really, it's a culmination of years of planning and strong fiscal management by the borough and multiple councils to get us to this point to make these investments. So again, a round of applause to everybody in the past decade to get us to where we are today. All right, moving forward to the business agenda. The Council of Governments, the Char West COG, which we're a part of, needs some delegates. The borough needs to reappoint COG delegates for 2021. So I'm just going to motion to appoint Ms. Coletta Perry and Philip Vassar Coletta Perry as the borough's primary delegate and myself as the borough's alternate delegate to the Char West Council of Governments.
Unless, of course, we have any other volunteers. Silence. Crickets. Okay, I'll take it. What is it? What did we say? That's voluntold?
Yes, sorry.
All right.
Do I hear so moved in a second?
Good move.
Second.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? None that oppose. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
And I
Next
believe the
page.
meeting's next week, the 21st.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Did we do the CDBG?
Did my eye skip something on the agenda?
Yeah.
Go back. Oh, I didn't see that. Hold on. No, hold on. On this, for where is it?
Front page, bottom.
CDBG.
I used the agenda that was emailed out to us, so if there was a change made.
Oh, this was the one that was mailed yesterday, the final draft. So if you will, I can discuss this and then we can have public comment because this was not, we apply for the community development block grant monies. Our share this year is going to be approximately $23,000. Our two projects were for the demolition of 1528 Bar Avenue. And then The second project was drainage improvements on Duncan Avenue on the Steuben to Backbone side. The county has stated that Crafton is ineligible for the demolition funds. They're very selective in where those go in the communities. So we're left with the Duncan Avenue drainage project, which is estimated at $31,000. So with the grant of $23,000, it'd be an $8,000 match for the borough. So they had indicated that they need this information by the 18th. So if we could have a motion to select the Duncan Avenue Drainage Improvement Project for funding for CDBG year 47 funding cycle.
My apologies. Yeah, that was on the agenda. I just grabbed the wrong one. So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. And President Lavasser, I'll let you take over. I'm
All
sorry.
right. Any questions or comments about what the manager brought forth, the interim manager brought forth?
So was this on the printed or the posted agenda?
Yes, I just grabbed the wrong one.
I was only asking for whether we should ask for comments for Sunshine Act issues.
Yeah, it was posted. I just grabbed the wrong version that was emailed to council.
Okay, maybe we should just ask to double check since it wasn't displayed on the screen in case anybody was, it wouldn't hurt.
Yep. Anybody?
Well, hold on. If we can also, because there's another item on there as well, the real estate tax. So are we able to open up both for public comment instead of doing it 2 separate times?
Why don't we just have him change out the PowerPoint real quick?
The
Real
real
estate tax is on here.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, it's identical to the one that I have, which is the most up to date, the real estate tax motion.
Okay. All right. So while the motion's open, I should take public comment, correct?
Yes, that's my
All right.
recommendation.
All right. Anybody from the audience, from the public would like to comment? You have an opportunity at this time to comment on the motion that was put forth on the floor.
That would be the CBGB grant.
Correct. Yep, correct. Is anybody raising their hands?
Not at this time.
All right. Then I'll move forth. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All that oppose? Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. All right.
Mr. President, real quick, I just wanted to clarify the correct agenda is posted on the website. I just double checked.
All right, thank you. Yeah. All right. All right, next page. All right, ratifying real estate tax funds. Motion to ratify the payment of the 2019 batch number 3 and 2020 batch number 1 real estate tax refunds in the amount of $6,905.75 as prepared and requested by Jordan Tax Service Incorporated.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any questions? Mr. Sample, this is a pretty routine exercise. We've done this over the years. All right.
It happens pretty much every quarter or semi-annually.
Yeah.
Where they,
Somebody's escrows paid too much, etc.
Right.
Right. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All that oppose? I'm sorry. All that oppose? All right. Hearing none that oppose, motion passes. All right. That's the end of the business agenda. Is that correct? All right. Moving forward to discussion items of Mr. Sample and Mr. Minsterman.
I think that we kind of discussed this earlier in the meeting. We're just prepping now. We do have an item on the road paving to get that going, but we're just in the process of putting together the contracts to go out for bid for the Crafton Boulevard, Woodlawn, and Bar Avenue reconstruction. So those will be coming to us.
Okay, and then the next item, we struck that for this meeting, correct? Yes. Safety protocols during COVID.
Oh, yes, that was, yeah. Yes, so the federal government protection of 80 hours, if you become infected with COVID or a close immediate family member, there was federal protections. Those protections ended at the end of 2020. So what many other municipalities are doing, they're just continuing those federal benefits for the employees per year, the 80 hours of sick time per se. So there is a policy there. It is on the wordy side, but I think what we want to do is just to kind of approve the measures that we had in 2020, the protections under the CARES Act, that we continue that for employees that are either become COVID positive or the family members become COVID positive. We have something in place for those protections. So we'll open it up for discussion.
I would concur, and I imagine that with the new Congress and Senate, there's going to be an extension of some of these policies.
I was actually going to chime in. I just read today the Biden proposal is to extend all of those leave laws, emergency family medical leave, emergency sick leave for COVID, also for folks where your daycare may close or the school is closed. And the proposal is to extend it to all employers, regardless of the number of employees, from one to, because the old law said if you had fewer than 50, you could, not work through it. Or if you had over 500, you were exempted. Additionally, it would apply to local governments. But there was language in the document I read that indicated there would be some sort of reimbursement to local governments if you provided that leave. There's also in the proposed stimulus bill hundreds of billions of dollars for local government bailouts, if you will. So that might be something that's coming down the pike to you and to your neighbors as well. So, but I think here's my point is that what Doug put together, I think, is satisfactory for now, but we'll just have to monitor to see if anything needs to be tweaked, if something should happen and with the new administration.
All right, and as we discussed, and so council knows, Mr. Sample and I had a discussion. I asked if anything comes up with the employees that that he track the time, as we always have with sick days and vacation days. So that timekeeping practice will continue, and he'll be able to use that if there's anything that we need to show as documentation. Is anybody from council? I see Anthony, you've got your hand up.
So my only question is, so to extend it, what will we need to do according to Borough Code? Or is it just something that's a policy that's done by the manager?
I believe, and I'll let maybe Steve, but if the federal government, they would usurp any borough code. So we would just fall under their guys, but I'll let Steve.
But I'm saying, like, within this period until, because right now we are in a new year, technically it's expired. So this gap period, what do we need to do to ensure that we have the coverage?
I think all we do at this point, Anthony, is pass this policy, or council give a thumbs up to this policy, and then we'll review things. And obviously we wouldn't want the policy to be in conflict with any future laws, and we can revise it at that time. But for now, this should cover us in this gap period.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something that we should just continue on to what we've been doing in 2020.
So
I just want to make sure you're saying by gap period about being retroactive to the beginning of 2021.
Correct. So that way until the new, if and when, because right now everything's speculation. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to, so to say, sit out there and just not have a policy in place that's protecting our employees like we did in 2020.
Council has the discretion to do that.
So my question is there any action that we need to take this evening, or do we wait till the end of the month on our business agenda?
I mean, you all can give Doug the thumbs up, but you can vote on it next meeting if that's your practice. I don't want you to necessarily upset the practice here, but you could do it now or you could do it next week.
Let's just do it at our next meeting, and we'll see how the federal plays out that side, and then we'll have it at our next meeting. But I think that we'll operate under the assumption that the 80 hours is something that will continue with or without the federal guidelines, which
All right.
seem very likely will be
Mr.
retroactive. And
Mr. Sample, are you aware of any current employees which this, I guess, gap period may be applicable to right now? So we don't have any real urgency to make sure that our employees are.
Yeah, I think if we want to, on that
we'd be
matter,
okay. We would be okay to wait to the next meeting.
Okay, and if something does pop up, maybe we just ask that the interim manager contact us, and we could try to work on an executive session at that point to try to expedite something if necessary.
All right. Coletta, any comments?
No, I mean, obviously I support it, and with the advice that we're provided, we can wait to vote. And it appears that what we're doing is planning to operate as if. And since our solicitor said there's no problem with doing that, then it's got my support.
Okay, Jim, does this have any direct effect, or do we need to do anything to provide any immediate relief to the uniformed members?
No, everything has been going the way we had set it up and not having any problems. So it's council's purview if they want to enact something.
Okay. All right. Pardon me. Moving forward to the 2021 road paving program.
So in the this was a list that Dave Killen and myself reviewed. We have approximately $335,000 in the road fund. These are real quick and dirty estimates. We'll actually have to go out and measure, but we wanted to get at least a starting point so that we can begin the discussion of what we're going to be paving this year. And the key is that we have money in the road program to create the 5-year paving program, which will give us and will be rated on. There's a company, Robotics, that will drive the streets. The computers rate them. That information is put into Gateway as a computer module that then spits out what we want to spend $300,000. It shows what streets to pave and it ranks them. And it gives us, again, it's a starting point. It's not gospel, but it gives you some data and something to rely upon other than driving around and saying, oh, this is a bad one. This is a bad one. So that's what this list is. We want to get the bid out sooner than later. So I'll open it up. Here's the starting point. What does council want to do?
All right. Mayor Bloom, you raised your hand.
I have a question. I looked at that list and it mentioned Park Street. And I was surprised to see that it mentioned Park Street between Linwood and Broadhead, where Park Street between North Emily and Linwood's looks like it's been in a war zone.
That's
I'm gonna
the brick
agree
section
with
of Park.
Jim.
Say again?
Mayor, is that the brick section that you're referring to?
Yes, it is, Doug.
So that we've actually slated in terms of reconstruction with the bond issue. And that has been identified as one of the main streets that we want to reconstruct. So that is definitely in the 2 to 3 year plan. And those monies have been set aside for that reconstruction.
Yeah, to further expand upon that, the 2022 sewer separation projects hopefully will incorporate full reconstructions for Warren, Coulter, and Park from top to bottom. And we're working with Engineer Minsterman's team on that. Part of it will be paid through the growth funding, and then the other funding will come, as Doug said, through the road enhancement part of the bond. So we're actually going to see basically a complete redevelopment of that entire neighborhood.
Could I pose one more question, please?
Yes.
Doug, there's been numerous places where there was road were opened up, and in the fall, Crafton Boulevard at Emerson, there's one I know that's North Emily Street, and only that prime first coat was put in, and that stuff's all sunk down. Are we not going to get any repairs on that till the asphalt plant's open?
Let me take a look at the open cuts, or the cuts that have just been temporarily patched, and we can bring those contractors back out to put in another temporary patch until springtime, when they can correctly do that. That's in our ordinance for the street openings. They're required to do that. So I will get on that and look at all the outstanding permits that are open.
Yeah, and the further on the section that's between Johnson and North Emily, where we cut open the street, that was actually our contractor. We had that failed pipe, and the engineers are currently working on it on the new plan. So I believe the restoration will be contingent upon what Gateway's team comes up with. So overall, and in the next year, that should all be put back together. But right now, we're not rushing because they have to come up with the final plan. Rick, did I address that correctly?
Yes, and the issue now is, as the mayor pointed out, is that the plants are closed. But so to do any kind of, and the weather conditions are not suitable. So even if you found asphalt, like the manager said, it would be a temporary patch. And if you can't find hot asphalt, then it would be cold patch to make the patch. So hopefully we can find hot asphalt, because cold patch doesn't last real long. But in any event, yes, that's correct. We need to address specifically what's going to be done there, especially because it was a broken water line that caused that. It wasn't a fault of Crafton's. It wasn't a fault of the contractor. I doubt the.
I was actually talking about the section that we dug up by Johnson Street for the sewer lining project that we ended up having to abort.
Yes, good point. Yeah, you're right. We don't want to fix that and have to disturb it again. So you'll see in the next month or so the next steps of trying to rectify that North Emily and Johnston issue. So yes, we're just, if it's not tolerable, as Doug was going to go out and visit the other location, then we can make some adjustments to make it, more rideable. But fixing it permanently would be a risk. So we'll wait until we figure out what the full plan is for that project, and then fix it.
All right, thank you. Anybody else have any questions
Yeah,
on
so
the 2021? Mr. Saba.
I know for Park, it was mentioned restructuring the road, does that mean reconstructing it and putting it back to brick, or are we putting it back to asphalt?
That's not a brick reconstruction. That is full depth asphalt with proper base, including the textiles, the proper aggregates, curb side to side, new inlets for stormwater, new sidewalks, like we did on South Grandview. That's the model that we're trying to apply across the borough.
So just for some quick clarification, so that way the public knows this. So the road tax and the road paving programs are essentially utilized on roads that could be easily redone, asphalted, and move forward, versus some of the roads need to actually be rebuilt.
Yeah, I mean, part of the road fund is going to be applied towards a maintenance, and then the other part of the road fund is going towards the full depth reconstruction. So the funds go towards both.
Okay. But with the bond, we're taking a look at restructuring.
That is not for that. Yeah, that is not for overlays. That is for full depth reconstructions.
Okay, thank you.
So to clarify then, to Anthony's point, is that a portion of this is for the repaving and another portion is for satisfying the annual debt payment for those road reconstructions.
Correct.
That are too big for us to do out of cash flow.
Correct. Yes. Anybody else? All right. I think that was pretty lively, good discussion. If you have any questions or you want to attend the engineering meeting, just reach out, and I'm sure Gateway wouldn't mind seeing more of our faces. All right. Mr. Amendola.
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So it's my understanding that sidewalks and curbs belong to the homeowner. Are we planning on replacing sidewalks? And do you have some kind of a plan that you're going to assess the homeowner, the cost of that? Or if you're just doing it out of the goodness of your heart when you're reconstructing the roads, isn't that going to cause a problem for anyone else that needs their sidewalk replaced?
Well, it's a council decision, but with regards to the curbs are not owned by the residents, they're owned by the borough. However, if you're a resident that damaged your curb, you're responsible for repairing what you've damaged, but the curbs are an integral part of the stormwater management.
Okay, I'll go along with that.
Yeah, so the next, to address the sidewalks, when we're going through these neighborhoods and doing full reconstructions, a lot of the times the sidewalks and the new curbs in the roadway are not ADA compliant. And when we come through, we're coming through and replacing everything to make the entire neighborhood ADA compliant. However,
yeah, ADA is not my question.
Well, but it is part of the question, because if council opted not to pay for the sidewalks and we opted to assess, that is, some communities do assess, and that would be a council policy decision if we opt not to cover the cost of the full reconstruction of the sidewalks, curbs, and the roadway like we did on South Grandview.
Well, then, Mr. Corbel, I guess the question I have is that, if a resident from, completely different side of town has a sidewalk problem and comes to us and says, are you going to replace my sidewalks too? Because you replaced these other sidewalks? Don't we have a problem there, maybe?
No.
Okay. Okay.
All right, Fred, Kelly has her hand raised. Can I take her question?
Yes, you answered my question.
All right, thanks. Ms. Perry?
This is essentially, it's not a decision that's been finalized, so we will have an opportunity to discuss it as we go forward. Question mark?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, I mean, when we go, when we're talking about the scopes of the projects, et cetera, yeah, but there's some of the, like the Crafton Boulevard project, I mean, that project's, pretty far along in design, and we're, with regards to where the stormwater pipes are going, et cetera, we're going to have to replace the sidewalks because we're impairing the sidewalk. So we're not gonna
So
charge.
that's a different story, but as we
Correct.
look at the road reconstruction projects that are in the bond, those haven't been started yet.
Correct,
And there's
that's correct.
opportunity to make decisions about that. Thank you.
Yeah, yep. Okay. I don't see any other hands raised, so we'll move to Crafton and Ingram rezoning grant. Doug?
Yeah, yes. So I believe everybody was, I'm sorry. I believed everybody was on these emails. So and this has been brought up before, but the Planning Commission has been working on getting a rezoning with us and Ingram. We passed a resolution back in August saying that we would split it 50-50 with Ingram. They are ready to move forward. They've selected environmental planning and design. They went through an RFP process. Once Ingram came aboard, it came down to two firms. One firm did not respond and EPD did. So it was through an RFP process. But they are ready to start this to get going. Now they've applied for grant funding. The total cost of the project is around $100,000. If they get the grant, it would be a matching grant. So the grant would be $50,000. Us and Ingram would each have $25,000. If we don't get the grant, Ingram and us are spending $50,000 apiece. So what they're asking us to do is to move forward with this, whether we get the grant or not. Now, I did ask Lydia Herring, who's the chairman of our planning commission. Usually, you do not get reimbursed for monies that are already spent on a grant. She contacted DCED and they said, no, any money spent after January 1 could be refunded through the grant. So with that.
Wait, can you clarify that again? What?
So money spent, anything past January 2021, January 1, 2021, money spent would go towards our match, of the grant. So DCD has confirmed that. So if we were to start the process, they've outlined that it would, they want to get them on board in February. So any monies we spent would go towards our match.
Okay.
So they are asking for commitment, and this would be at our next meeting where we'd approve this. So now we discuss.
All right. Well, I'd like to start. Concerning that, after having a discussion with the council president of Ingram, from my understanding, Ingram wasn't going to move forward unless they got the funding. So I thought we would wait until we figured out where that funding came, how that funding landed. And I don't really know if there's if it's really necessary to start this project during this pandemic. We're not through this situation. Yes, we can have online participation, but there's other things moving in the market. So I don't know if it's necessary, one, to start right away, and two, you've got a council, there's just a lot of There's a lot of moving parts. I don't know.
And the award is somewhere in the second quarter of this year is when they anticipate announcement of the award. So
Yeah. Anthony and then Coletta.
No, I think Brad was before me.
All right. I don't see Brad's little window.
It's all right, whatever. It's okay. Any order is fine with me. Coletta can go.
Thanks for meeting me. So two things that I have, just the question is, do we have it in writing from DCED saying that if we do spend any money past January 1st, that it will count towards the?
I've not independently verified that.
Okay, I would like to sort of say, whether it be an email, just so that way we have a paper trail, so not saying should have, would have, could have. But I feel that we should wait. I do know with the economic climate and everything else going on, some grants haven't necessarily been guaranteed and funding has been pulled from applications. So I'd rather wait because this is not something it's urgent, but not so urgent that it needs to be done now.
I would second what Anthony has to say, that there isn't, and that Philip has said. There's no rush here. We tried to get this moved on over a year ago, and the will of council at that time was to wait to see if we could get grant funding before we made a decision.
Yeah, and to bring Ingram along here.
Yeah, and especially if Ingram has indicated that they're not likely to go ahead
right
without grant funding. So yeah, I would say let's wait.
Brad.
Well, I would have to respectfully disagree with waiting. In the sense, from my perspective, I just feel that rezoning is a crucial component to, achieving some kind of predictable results in stopping, urban sprawl and deterioration of historic neighborhoods, of which we are that, and we do have a bit of 1970s sprawl mixed in here as well. And so from my perspective, well, I will gladly go along with the majority of council wherever it decides to go. I do think this is a pressing issue, and I understand that the comprehensive plan calls that we should do our best to link up with Ingram and have a joint resolution or a joint plan with them. However, I do think that it is important for Crafton to lead in this. And if the entirety of the planning with Ingram is simply just centered around the shopping center in the parts of the border that we share, which coincides at the where the Get-Go and Fala's used to be over there, I would be okay with that as well, because I think that for Crafton to develop itself into a forward-thinking community that will bring millennials and Gen Zers here to stay for 20 to 30 years, we're going to have to create zoning which entices those community aspects that people remember from time gone by. And secondly, we have to figure out a long-term plan as to how to incentivize the proper investment into the shopping center. Because regardless of political affiliation or simply tribal affiliation here in Crafton, I think everybody agrees that the shopping center is an asset that might need to be improved in a lot of different ways.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. Ms. Barry.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Kraus's all of his sentiments. The thing that I would point out is that we're talking about pushing the wait out 4 to 6 months, not years, and that should we not get the grant funding, the the RFP, the way it was redone, is for the joint planning and would probably have to be redone and resent out. So, I mean, I think at the end of the day, this is largely going to fall on Ingram. If Ingram says that they will not do this without the grant, then I would agree. Our move is to put out a new RFP that's independent and to move forward. But it seems like we just need to wait that timing out, unless Ingram suddenly says, "Oh yeah, we'll go too regardless."
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Saba.
So just a quick question. So for the rezoning with Ingram Joint, just refresh my memory. Are we talking about just the shared common areas, or are we talking about both municipalities as a whole?
So the way it is, we're going to have our own separate zoning because it's not actually a joint zoning. We're going to be working on our zoning at the same time. There's going to be an overlay district essentially that's going to be memorialized by both the municipalities, and all the design guidelines and zoning principles that we develop through this exercise will, hopefully be standardized across both municipalities, and there'll be some shared themes that would help both municipalities. And so that's, did I answer your question on that?
So basically we're looking at the municipality as an entirety, but the only difference from a year and a half or 2 years ago is that instead of it just being Crafton by itself, it's Crafton and Ingram working jointly to have similar zonings within the municipalities.
Right, and that's what our comp plan had put together as well. I mean, that was one of the foundational principles of that. It was supposed to be one of the outcomes. So again, that's why I've been a proponent of waiting to bring Ingram along and go through this process of getting the funding, which we worked with the consultants jointly. And Brad, I hear you loud and clear here. My thing is, I want us to be strategic. To be honest, we got a lot of things to land here. We're about to embark on major construction projects that this borough hasn't seen in 50, 60 years. And we have to just be, again, strategic. I mean, we're trying to land the bond. I think the finance team did a good job this week getting that squared away. We put 3 or 4 years into this capital improvement plan. And the zoning requires a lot of community engagement, cooperation, administrative resources. In addition, we're in the middle of this pandemic. We're trying to get everybody vaccinated. We have all these things going on, and to add that in addition to getting multi-million-dollar construction projects in the ground, it's just going to add another element of complexity that, again, we haven't done zoning for a very, very long time. It's very ambitious. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be ambitious, but I'm just saying we're spending real dollars in construction, and we haven't done that in a very long time. So I think the order of operation should be, let's get these construction projects underway. The planning commission will still be there. The residents are still going to be here that want to be engaged in the zoning. The market, we all see what's going on every week in the Pittsburgh Business Times with what's happening with the leasing and subleasing of commercial spaces downtown. There's a lot of things that are going on that are going to potentially be advantageous to Crafton or make us change our perception of what has to happen here over the next decade and to make us competitive in our part of the busway area. So anyway, I just wanted to add that. Ms. Perry? I can't hear you.
I lowered my hand but didn't unmute myself. I do have a suggestion. If there is a possibility of getting an absolute decision out of Ingram, either we absolutely will not move forward without the grant, or that yes, we see that we need to do this, we're willing to do it now, we're willing to commit. And if Ingram is willing to commit one way or the other, that means that the RFP stands and we could move forward.
I would concur with that. I mean, I hear you, Philip, and I understand that sometimes it's not always the best course of action to bite off more than you can chew. However, to your very point about the undertaking that we are about to see in this town, I think it would be, you know, I think we should measure twice and cut once, to use a metaphor. And I would like to see a lot of these things undertaken in this change period that we're about to embark on, because I think they would fit nicely under an umbrella of Renaissance. And at some point, the economy will rear back and there will be capital to invest. And I would like to see Crafton having positioned itself for that investment. Insofar about COVID-19 and the vaccinations and so on and so forth, that's a bit out of our pay grade. But I do think that since there has been a change in the winds insofar about some of the developments that we have discussed, land use developments we've discussed in the past 2 years that, you know, never took off the ground, now might be a time to bring in the community partners that were animated by that discussion and move them to something that they can see the fruits of their labors realized in a year to 18 months. And being that we did have significant movement on this issue last year, I think it would be remiss to not pick it up where we left it.
So may I finish my proposal?
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. So basically I said, if we can get Ingram's buy-in that they will move with us either way, then we could vote to move forward. If they are not willing to do that, I would suggest that we keep that process moving forward. But in the meantime, that we pull together an RFP to put out in the eventuality that we'll be back to Crafton only, so that as soon as we have word, and should we be turned down for the grant, that we are positioned to move quickly.
All right. Well, just so you know, I did send out an email to Ingram's president last week on this matter. So I'm waiting for a response.
Mr. President, if I could just add real quick. So just to add just one other piece to Ms. Perry's suggestion, which is I concur with as well. Just clarification from DCED and having that concrete that if we do move forward, regardless of the grant, if and when it does come in, that, you know, our ducks in a row and we're not saying should have, would have, could have.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I would add too that you have a proposal from the current planning consultant, and in lieu of resoliciting, I would suspect that you could change the scope, simply eliminate the Ingram side of it, and then see what the resultant proposal and cost would be. Because I would suspect that's exactly what you'd do in your RFP, is cut off all the Ingram work, put it back out. It would take a couple months to do, and then you would probably get the same consultant back for, you know, the cost that you could probably just negotiate with. So it might be worth trying that. You've done the public process already. You're just changing the scope. So that may fly and save you some time as well.
So if I might ask, so what are you were suggesting that maybe we go to the selected entity now, essentially, if we have Ingram say, if Ingram gets back to us and says, no, we won't move without a grant, then we could ask the current consulting company, we can change the scope and see what they come back with, so we would be ready to move.
Yes.
Do I
Yeah.
understand?
Yeah. And let's say you would get the grant, and then you wouldn't have to take the alternative proposal. And then if you didn't get the grant and Ingram dropped out, then you could take the alternative proposal. So, and also it would send the message that you're serious about moving forward with or without Ingram, whether you want to send that message or not, I don't know. But I'm simply saying that, to save time and to save money and headache, it probably be worth to just ask that consultant, hey, eliminate all the Ingram work. What's the new cost for the proposal? And one other thing to note is you didn't get, I don't think, Doug, you got a real strong response from planning consultants on this. So if there were 15 consultants that, beating down the door, maybe you do put it back out. But if there's not, then let's just talk to the people who are interested.
Okay, so really, is this something that we would put up for a vote, or is this just something that Doug could do so that we have?
I think I've got a direction. President Lavasser and I will reach out to Ingram, and then we can do some due diligence, and then next time we'll bring more information back to council.
Okay, thank you.
Brad, your hand was still raised. Do you have
Yeah,
another
I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Minsterman's point, which I think is well made, that I only speak for myself in this, but I would like to send that message that we are ready to move on to Ingram. Our comprehensive plan is 5 years, 4 or 5 years-ish old, and it's been very clear. I mean, we're almost through one cycle of elected officials who ran on that platform. So I think I understand where they might be coming from. I empathize with that, but from our perspective, I think it's time to move in a direction for Crafton.
All right, so by the next meeting, we should have some, may see a motion here, depending on what we learn from Ingram, and we'll have additional conversation at the end of the month. All right, I'm going to move forward here to the Char West Cog UCC Board of Appeals.
Yes, I got this memo, which I forwarded on to everybody yesterday. I'm going to be honest, I don't know much about it. I don't really have much to input on this one, so I'll turn it over to somebody that, has this been an ongoing discussion with council, or is this so?
So I can jump in a little bit on this. So early on, at least in my term, we had a growing need for the professionals necessary to be able to sit on a UCC board. Prior to my term, the Char West Cog had put together this UCC Board of Appeals, which it would, in essence, kind of lend out to municipalities that would need or could utilize a UCC appeals board. And I believe more recently, we kind of lost our last member that was qualified to sit on the UCC appeals board. I kind of see Coletta shaking her head because I rely on Coletta to let me know if I'm speaking out of my butt about something. But so we kind of see ourselves at this moment without a UCC appeals board. And over the course of the latter half of last year, it really didn't present itself as an issue, but it could as Crafton is growing and seeing more and more new residents coming in to try to fix up houses, things like that. So, I mean, I would recommend to council that we kind of push forward on something like this because we have the need for it. Or without a UCC, an appeals board that could sit and make these rulings. And I guess I'll leave it there. And I should note actually that Char West Cog isn't doing this out of the goodness out of their heart. There is a fee associated with it, but my understanding is, and the solicitor can chime in, that it's perfectly acceptable for us to be able to pay for this. And I believe we actually only pay based off of, we don't pay based on how much we use it, but rather just a flat fee.
That's my understanding. I think we've been down this road a couple times before, quite frankly.
Yeah, I actually thought that we had
Passed something already.
passed the resolution that we would participate.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think there was anything else for us to do.
Right.
No,
So,
I remember looking at stuff a year or so ago, or even more, like particularly the operating procedures of the
mhm,
board, et cetera, and having some input there. So
mhm.
Doug, I would just say double check to make sure we have done that. And if for some reason we're all misremembering, then we could put it on the agenda if that's what council would like for the next meeting. But at this point, I'm pretty sure we did pass a resolution
We're
sometime during
bought
the
in,
course
we're bought
of-
into this idea.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, we were,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good,
I thought we were
okay.
just waiting.
Yeah.
All right. I will get,
I
yeah,
remember something last year, but I couldn't remember if it was just a discussion or if we actually voted.
No, I think we actually voted.
I do
Yes. Yeah,
I'll reach out to the COG. Yeah, these are boards are very difficult to fill. They're special, it's a specialty thing, so.
Right.
Right.
So, okay, good. I understand what to do.
yeah, I think you just need to ask Mr. Nucci, where are they?
Oh, yes, yeah. So good.
I just wanted to bring up an item here. Mr. Saba, your hand's raised.
Yeah, I had 2 items to bring up, but you can go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Just the first. So I just wanted to see what we can do. So Jordan Tax, there was an issue where residents were not receiving their sewer bill on time to be able to pay it, pay in a timely manner that it was going to be received. And when I reached out to them, they said as long as they receive it before the next billing cycle, you would not be charged a fee. And I know there's options of paying online, but when you got to pay online, regardless if you use a credit card or a check, there is a fee. And I know a lot of other folks had the same issue where they were not receiving their sewer bills on time. And when they reached out to Jordan, they basically blamed it on the postal service, which I understand the postal service is backed up, but I don't know what we can do as a municipality to ensure that our residents aren't being charged more and that what they are paying is being applied to their account. Because I do know Jordan's not, they collect on our behalf.
Let me follow up with council on that. I think that Jordan will cover. I don't want to say too much, but yeah, let me follow up with Jordan. I've had some conversations, and let me follow up with the board because you're right. It's not fair.
Yeah, and I know a lot of folks are pretty upset with Jordan Tax just in general, especially with their customer service. So I know that's a concern of mine. A lot of folks have brought up with their interactions with Jordan.
Yeah, I think we can make this work to our residents' behalf. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you. And then my second item. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that attended the Celebration of Lights tour. We were able to raise $2,343.26 that will go to the Crafton Ingram Food Bank, not including any food and other item donations that were collected the day of. Just wanted to say a special thank you to the Crafton Recreation Board, as well as Public Works. They did a great job helping out, setting up everything in the park, as well as Crafton Police, making sure that all the items stayed in place, and all the homes that participated. This was a wonderful event. I do know between the Halloween event and the Celebration of Lights, we are roughly around $4,500 that was raised for the Crafton Ingram Food Bank. There is going to be more coming for next year. So I would just advise everybody be on the lookout. If you would like to participate, don't hesitate to email the Recreation Board. There is an email on the website, but be on the lookout for next year as well.
Next year, as in 2022, or are you talking about 2021?
Oh, sorry, next season. Sorry, I'm still in the 2020.
You're still in 2020,
Yeah.
right? I got you.
Yeah. So next fall.
Thank you. And thank you for all the efforts you put forth. All right. Does anybody else have an item? I wanted to bring up to the council about the demolition on 1528 Bar. You know, I think we had a failed bid, or it was a out of line bid, and I think we need to move forward and try to get that taken care of. And we're moving forward on the one on Baldwick, 52 Baldwick, right? I just want to make sure that those two get addressed. And then from what I understand, that there's there are a couple others in town that are going to have to be evaluated. But you know, so far we've been doing pretty well with keeping up with them. But these larger demolitions, or you know, the 52 Baldwick was is not easily accessed, so that's caused some issues. And then you know, the bar demo bid was pretty high. I think it was like $65,000. So it's another thing the council, I mean, we have to stay vigilant. That's why everything we're doing with code enforcement is so important, to ensure that these we don't have buildings falling in that type of disrepair, because it's a significant cost to the taxpayers to remedy them through demolitions. Mr. Kraus?
While we are on the subject, if I could petition Doug here to give us an update to the status of the White House at the bottom. If you're coming down from 60, you make a right on Dinsmore, I believe. There's a White House on the left. I think it's 129 Dinsmore. It's definitely has a Borough sticker on the window. And, you know, it's I think probably past rehabilitation, and I'd like an update on it if we can.
Actually, go ahead.
No, go please.
I actually was going to propose that we put that to tax sale, but it looks like it went through foreclosure. It's listed for 57,000, so we have to see what happens there. But I would concur. The longer that thing sits there, it's the worse it's become. You know, there's multiple additions on it. It appears to have been a hoarder house. It's in significant disrepair, filled to the brims with items, and is a blight in the middle of that part of the community.
I'll check in on that, and I'll get us an update from the safety side.
All right, Ms. Perry?
Yeah, I know that it's our practice to get community comment ahead, but I do see that one of our attendees, Ms. Glasser, has her hand up, and I'm wondering if we would entertain her comment.
Sure. Ed, could you?
Okay, Alice Glosser, 10 Belvedere Street in Crafton. We would always have the comments, you know, from citizens at the end, and I understand right now that we are doing them in the beginning. However, I think that once some discussion items are brought up, that there would be some comments that would like to be paid instead at the end. Is there any possibility that we could entertain 5 minutes or so? Not per person, but for the comments.
We can take that under consideration. Do you have a comment right now?
I did, and it was on the road paving. And I probably should put this in, but it is like the separation from Crayton onto Noble Avenue. If you would have anyone that would be in a handicap position, that is a totally fallen through road. We're ending, you know, with the brick, and then we're going into the asphalt. I'm not sure when we repaved that. I'm sorry, I just can't recall that. However, it is something that should be looked into if we are going to address the ones up there on Crafton Boulevard.
So you're saying that the ends of each end, or the
no, the one in particular at Noble and Crayton.
Okay.
It's very, very, very bad. Water line in it. It just was not a good fit. It was not finished properly. And
Okay.
that would have gone back several years, but I'm sorry just to bring that up.
No, it's all right. We'll bring it up on Tuesday and have Rick. Maybe you can have somebody from engineering get out there ahead of our next week's meeting.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Yep. Thank you, Alice.
Okay, and since we allowed Alice, we do have one more hand raised.
All right.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes, Mr. Zool.
How you doing? That was my question too on Crayton and Noble there. The brick is, just eviscerated badly. And as I was going down there, bottomed out my car quite badly. And when you have a lower, level car and everything, you're going to hit your oil pan. And I walked that street quite a bit because I was looking for an investment property on that street. And it is absolutely impossible to drive down to that end. And Ms. Glasser in front of me just spoke is absolutely true. It is definitely a hazard. The other thing I wanted to say is I wanted to thank everybody on the Borough Council here in Crafton. I've been here for 17 years. I've lived in the South Hills for the last 50 years, between Mount Lebanon and Buffalo Park in the last 17 years in Crafton. And the improvements that I've seen in Crafton are amazing. I know it's hard to understand, I'm a retired person. It's hard to understand is that people don't want their taxes to go up, but Crafton is a beautiful community and we do need to invest into it. And we do honor our past, but we need to move forward to our future. That's all I'd like to say.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll.
Can I ask a point of order to the chair? Can you ask the gentleman to state his address for the record?
Yes.
We didn't get a name and address.
Yes. It shows that your name is Michael Zool. Could you provide your full name and address, please?
Yes, it's Michael Zoll, and it's 604 Broadhead Avenue.
Thank you.
And that's Crafton.
Thank you. I think I saw Mr. Amendola's hands raised.
I believe he's on mute.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Alice brought up a good point. I've heard a lot of people complaining to me about not being able to speak at the end of the council meeting after we've had our meeting and, things that were on the agenda were discussed. People have additional comments. And so you said that you're going to take that into consideration. So I would like to know what that means. I think that we should discuss it right now in public while this meeting is going on, rather than, you're going to consider it behind closed doors. Let's discuss it now at an open meeting, because I've had complaints about people not being able to speak after the meeting also.
Well, thank you.
If I may chime in, Mr. Solicitor, under Borough Code or our current ordinances and resolutions, is there any required structure as to citizen comment at the beginning or end of the meetings, or is that really just up to the chair?
The only comments that you must permit at the beginning of the meeting are on agenda items. You also are required to permit comments on any topic. This is under the Sunshine Act. But the comments on any item can take place at any point during the meeting. Oftentimes in pre-COVID times, those comments were at the end, usually so the meeting could proceed, the business that was to be considered would be addressed by the residents, and then someone could talk about something that would not be an agenda item at the end of the meeting. It's really, as long as you're allowing agenda item comments before you're voting on anything, you could set it up however you want. I know that a lot of communities change to have a single comment period because of the pandemic and the online function, but not everybody's sticking with it. It's certainly up to the board if you'd like to change it. So maybe some people have a comment about something that's not agenda item related. They may appreciate the fact that they don't have to sit through the entire meeting to make the comment. You could even ask for comments on any item at the beginning and any item at the end. It's up, whatever you all want to do. I'm probably adding more confusion here, but not intending to. Basically, you have a lot of flexibility.
I guess I was just asking, under the current structure, whose decision is it? Is it the collective, or is it the chair of the meeting's discretion?
I would say that the president has the discretion to set it up as long as it complies with law, but the council, a majority of council could direct it to occur in a different manner. But typically the president council, vice president council, manager put the agenda together. And so that's the way I look at it. If everybody wants to give Philip feedback, I think by the next meeting, he could let you know what to do. Or as Mr. Amendola said, you can debate it and vote it tonight, as long as you allow public comment before your vote.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Saba.
So I would just recommend that we do have a comment at the end for the discussion meetings, as the second meeting of the month is mainly, unless we are discussing an item, but the second meeting of the month, we are mainly just voting on items that were discussed at length at the first meeting of the month. So I can see when we have these discussion meetings, that we have our public comment on the front end and the back end.
Thank you. Ms. Perry?
I would second that. I think that we're all getting used to this Zoom format, and so are our attendees. And it doesn't seem like it would be much of a stretch to entertain comment at the end of the discussion. And given the fact that we are trying to have these discussion meetings, not vote, and then have voting 2 weeks later, it would give our community a better opportunity to make their comments before we deliberate over the next 2 weeks. And then also for others that might listen to the meetings to be able to be at the next meeting and make their comments ahead of time, because those items will be on the agenda.
All right. Anybody else? Fred, your hand's raised. Did you want to add?
I'm sorry. No, just that's what we should do. We should do the right thing here. We should let people speak.
Thank you.
Instead of, giving consideration in a back room somewhere. That's all I have to say, really.
Thank you, Mr. Amendola.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'd just like to say we're going to take comment at the beginning and the end of our discussion meetings. And with that, we're going to move forward. Thank you for everybody's input, and we're going to move forward to community announcements. All right, so with that being said, the Borough office will remain closed to the public. However, staff is available during normal business hours and can be reached via telephone or email. There is a drop box in the rear of the building for any written correspondence. Any changes to this action will be posted on the Borough website and Savvy Citizen. All right, with that, I'm going to adjourn the public meeting. We're going to recess to executive session.
See you guys. I'm taking off, assuming you
Thank
don't
you.
need me. So you have a great night.